everybody. This is Pastor Phil. Welcome to the weekly Word Live broadcast. I'm broadcasting here on YouTube only. I wasn't able to do YouTube and Facebook. But if you're watching on YouTube, do me a huge favor. Just put something in the comments if you can. Let me know that you're watching. And also you can make comments on Facebook, but you'll be making it on the Facebook comment of a YouTube video. That was way too complicated. So anyway, I hope that hope you guys can hear me okay. Hope that you guys can see me all right. I'm excited about some news I have for you today. But before we get to all that, let me just kind of go on record as saying, man, things at the church are exciting. And we're coming out of the other end of this pandemic, and even though it's not back to what it was before, it's different, and dare I say, maybe even a little bit better. I know that sounds weird. I don't mean better in terms of health, and I know a lot of people have suffered, but I really believe that throughout this whole experience, we've become stronger as a church at some level. Again, that's not to say that people haven't struggled at some level. I've certainly struggled with the pandemic at some level. If you've been close to me, you know that. But what's interesting is we, as a church, were tested in a few different ways. Maybe tested in our resolve to reach the community, tested in our generosity factor, and tested as far as how we're going to take care of each other. And I think in all of those tests, at least as far as I know, we did well with that as a church. So I just want to go on record saying thank you guys for being such a great church and for being faithful to what God's called the church to do. It is awesome to be a part of it. Now, today, I want to talk about scripture memorization. Now, if you are somebody who's been around in the church for a long time, then you're probably familiar with memorizing the Bible, or at least the idea of memorizing the Bible. This seems like, unless I'm missing something, and you can correct me if you want, but this seems like something that we used to do back then, whenever back then was for you. For me, it was the 70s and the 80s, where we had programs in church where we memorized the Bible. Matter of fact, I was in a Wednesday night group, shout out if you were in the same thing, called Awana, okay? Awana, that stood for a workman, something not ashamed. I can't remember what it stood for. But it was really like the Christian equivalent of the Boy Scouts. And it was all about earning badges and things like that through memorizing the Bible. And we played games and stuff too. When I was in Sunday school, we memorized Bible verses. That seemed very important. Of course, we started with John 3:16. Many people know that one, probably not everybody. Now, I think what's happened over the course of the last, I don't know, maybe 20 years, is as we've entered into more technology, people have decided to memorize the Bible less. Or maybe it's fallen out of fashion. Let's put it that way. Because why would I need to memorize the Bible? I have, a copy of the Bible on my computer. I have a copy of the Bible on my phone. I might have 2 or 3 copies of the Bible on my phone. I can certainly Google any Bible verses I need. And so why would I go through the process of memorizing? Well, there's a few reasons. One of the verses that comes to mind is a Bible verse that David penned in Psalms, and it says, "Your word," speaking to God, "have I hid in my heart that I might not sin against you." I memorized it in the good old King James Version. "Thy word have I hid in my heart that I might not sin against thee." But what David was getting at was something more than just Bible memory. And this is something you have to kind of think about. The ancient saints and believers did not have copies of the written word available to them the way we do now. As a matter of fact, I can't imagine what it would have been like. I mean, it would have been amazing for some of these ancients, the prophets, maybe the kings, some of the judges, to have at their disposal just, copious amounts of scripture that they could, cross-reference and Google and everything. It would have been amazing. What they had to do is memorize the Bible. And they memorized big chunks of it. Do you know this? That for a rabbi to become an official rabbi, they had to memorize big chunks of the Torah, and in some cases, memorize the whole thing. That's the first 5 books of the Bible. You think that's impossible. Nobody could memorize that. Well, remember a couple of things. Number one, they didn't have a choice. Number two, they had more time on their hands than we have now. I mean, obviously they kept busy. They worked very hard, but they did not have distractions. And so this idea of memorizing the Bible, I would like to re-engage with some people if they're willing to memorize the Bible, because it can be very, very helpful to you in growing your faith. Yes, you have the Bible on your phone, and yes, you have access to it on your computer, but you don't necessarily have immediate access to it in your mind where it's really the most powerful. I'll never forget when I was 13 years old, one of my youth pastors challenged all of us to memorize the very first chapter of the book of Psalms. The whole chapter. Now, to me, that sounded impossible. I mean, it's a whole chapter in Psalms. But he challenged us, and he did something which is helpful. He showed us how to memorize the Bible. And before long, I had that passage memorized. And let me tell you something. To this day, I have never, ever forgotten it. I'll prove it to you. This is not me showing off. This is me showing you that after, let's see, if I was 13, it's like 37 years. It goes like this. Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful, but his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his word does he meditate day and night. And he shall be like a tree planted by rivers of water, that brings forth fruit in its season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. The ungodly are not so, but are like the chaff which the wind driveth away. Therefore the ungodly shall not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the congregation of the righteous. For the Lord knoweth the way of the righteous, but the way of the ungodly shall perish. Now you might be listening to me now and think, I could never in 100 years memorize that much scripture. I guarantee that you can, and I'm going to prove it to you. I'm unveiling something starting next week, the very first week of summer, that I'm calling the Summertime Scripture Memory Challenge. The Summertime Scripture Memory Challenge. And this is Pastor Phil challenging you to memorize one Bible verse every single week for the summer. And we're going to do it together. I'm going to give you each week one Bible verse that I believe every single believer should know by heart. And I don't mean stumble through it. I mean know it like it's hidden in your heart. Like David says, that he'll meditate on it day and night. That it will never leave you. 12. We're going to start with 12. One per week. And I'm going to show you how to do it. I'm going to show you different memorization techniques that you can use. Okay, because everybody learns a little bit differently. Some people are auditory listeners. Some people are visual listeners. Some people are experiential listeners. And I'm going to show you how to do this. And at the end of the summer, you are going to have 12 critical Bible verses committed deep to memory. And here's what I can guarantee you is going to happen. From just these 12 Bible verses, your faith is going to grow. Because at moments when you feel challenged, a scripture is going to be right there. Not a scripture that you have to think about, that you wonder what it's all about, a scripture that is planted deep inside you. In moments of temptation, a scripture is going to come forward. In moments of anger, a scripture is going to come forward to help you deal with that. When you need to be patient, there'll be a scripture there for you. When you need to put aside your own selfish nature and look to others, you're going to see that. So, I am going to do that starting, and I already see some people commenting that, oh, I love this. I got to say this. Stephanie Clark used memorized scriptures while she was in the MRIs and PET scans. You can't Google in the machine. Yes, that's why you need to have the scripture. But I see a couple other people saying it's really, really hard to memorize scripture. I get that, okay? All right? I'm not saying it's easy for me, but I do have some techniques. So check this out. I'm going to put this up on the screen for a little while. If you want to participate in Pastor Phil's Summertime Scripture Memory Challenge, 12 verses, 12 weeks over the summer, we're going to do it together. We're going to use some technology. We're going to do some video. We're going to do some podcast. I'm going to give you all the tools you need. I want you to go to this link right here and put your email address in the link. And that will get you on a list so that I can communicate to you all the details and everything that you need to know. Okay? So if you want to be a part of this, go ahead and go to that link right there. It's a website. You'll be able to pop in your email address and I'll be able to be in touch with you. And let me do one more encouragement. If you are sure that you can't memorize 12 verses, try it. Okay? Try it. If you've never done it before, try it. What do you have to lose? If you only memorize 6 of the 12, that's better than maybe where you're at now. But I have a feeling that God's going to bless this idea because all through the scriptures, and I'll show you when we get there, all through the scriptures, the idea of writing these words on our heart, of hiding them in our heart, of placing them in our mind, meditating on them, knowing them is really, really important. And it's only really in the last, whatever it is, 400 years that we've had written accounts of this, like written scriptures like we have now. I mean, before that, almost everybody had to memorize. So check that link out. That's all I have for the Weekly Word Live today. Well, one thing I'll mention, if you haven't signed up for church yet, we still are doing our weekly sign-ups. I believe there are still about 20 spots left for this Sunday at 10 a.m. You can sign up through our registration system at lifepointchurch.com and then just go to the events and make sure that you get signed up for church this Sunday. We will broadcast it, of course, at 10 a.m. If you're not feeling well, you're sick, compromised, please stay at home. No worries there. We're glad for you to do that. Otherwise, please come on Sunday if you can. If we run out of spots this Sunday, we will do an overflow service. And you don't want to miss this Sunday. I'm going to tell you why. Pastor Matt will be bringing the sermon, and it's still the Heroes of Faith series, and he's going to be talking about David. So you don't want to miss this. And by the way, you think, oh, man, I know the story of David. No, you don't know the story of David in its fullest, and Matt's going to bring it to you this Sunday. So anyway, looking forward to seeing you this Sunday. Check out this challenge here. Until then, God bless you guys. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you soon.